So this took place last month, about 6 weeks ago now. I live in a holler at the very end, so my house sits at the base of a mountain. I decided to start a garden this year to grow some beans, tomatoes, potatoes, and corn. I knew there was a flat behind my house, but I couldn't get to it with my side by side because it was directly behind my house and the hill was straight up. There was a road going up the left side of the hill, so I hopped on my ATV and started up the road. I'd never went up this path before, so I was going kind of slow in case the road was washed out ahead. I was looking around. The trees ran along both sides of the path, so even though it was daylight, it was very dark along the road. The road forked, and I decided to take the left just to investigate. I traveled the road for about 10 minutes or so before coming to another fork. One road led up the mountain and one down into a valley. I took the high road, and there wasn't much to see along this road. I stopped and looked over into the valley. There was very few openings in the trees, so it was difficult to see what was down there. I noticed there was some sort of rock formation, but I couldn't make out what it was exactly. I decided to get back on my ATV and try the other road to see if it led to the rocks. I was heading up the trail when it opened up to a huge flat. There were several rock formations laid out. They were rectangular shaped, made up of 5 stones, two long ones along the sides, shorter ones at the ends, and one that ran along the top, covering the contents. I also noticed that the top rock had a rectangular section cut out. I tried peeking down into the cutout, but I could not see anything. I got a creepy feeling and decided it was time to leave. The next morning I asked my neighbor about what I had saw. He had no clue about the formations, but said he would ask his parents because they had lived in the house I now live in before moving to Arizona. That night, about 2 a.m., I was woken by a sound coming from the outside. I quickly get up and look out the window. I could see 3 figures standing along the tree line that led up the mountain. I grabbed my rifle and ran outside. I'd ran about 10 yards toward the shadows when I stopped. I could still see the shadows, but I couldn't make out any features. I shined my spotlight in their direction, but the light seemed to just pass through them. I turned and ran back toward the house. Then I noticed there were more. These shadows ran along the entire tree line, completely surrounding my house. I ran inside, slamming the door behind me and locking it. I glance out the window, and the figures are still there. The next morning I look out, and the shadows were gone. I go to investigate, and there were no signs of anything. I figured it was just all in my head and decided to lay down for a few hours before starting my day. After getting some sleep, I go back on the mountain to look at the rocks again. I noticed they all had some sort of writing on them. It was in a different language, so I don't know what it said. That evening, as I was coming in from work, I saw my neighbor. I told him about the writing on the rocks. We decided to go look at them. It was now late in the evening, so the path was completely dark, and I had to use the lights on my ATV just to see the road. As we pulled up to the rocks, I see those shadows again. I look at my neighbor, and he asked if I saw them too. We turn around and quickly leave. I was telling Ron about what I had seen the night before, and that they had came to the edge of the tree line but no farther. When we got back to his place, he called his parents. His dad told him that he had never went up there because he was told to stay away from the stone formations by his father, who had purchased the land over 70 years ago. The man who owned the land before had went mad and killed his wife and kids before eating them. Ron's parents said they had purchased the land off of the man's brother, who had told him about the rocks, and he believes that is what caused his brother to go crazy. I couldn't sleep at all that night, but throughout the night, I could hear things outside moving around on the porch and to the side of the house. I couldn't bring myself to look out the window. That next morning, when the sun came up, the sound stopped, so I decided to go back to the rocks. I don't know why, but I felt drawn to the rocks now. I studied them for a while before I passed out. I woke a few hours later. I was so hungry, so I went to fix me something to eat, but no matter how much I ate, I was still hungry. I decided to do some research on the site, but every website I looked at didn't match what I had seen. That night, the sounds were back, but I couldn't stay awake. I tried to, but I was so exhausted. I woke up and looked at the clock. It's 4:27. I look out the window and I see the body of something standing in the window. I don't see a head, just the arms and body. The arms appear to be longer than they should. The hands appear to be hanging below the knees. I look up and it's staring down at me. I jump back. This thing must be over 7 feet tall. I hear the handle to the door. It's trying to get in. I run to the center of the house. I can still hear it at the door. It went on for what seemed like hours, but as soon as daylight came, it was gone. I go to the porch to check it out. The sides of the house are covered in writing. It appears to be the same language that is on the rocks. At this point, I'm terrified. I'd never believed in this sort of thing, and trying to make sense of it, well, I can't make sense of it. I called Ron to see if he had heard any more about the rock formations from his dad, but he said he hadn't. I tell him about the night before and the writing that is now covering the house. He told me I should leave and offered to let me stay at his place for a while till I could figure something out. I decided that for now I would try to wait it out and hopefully it will stop. I slept that entire day. I was so exhausted, but I kept having nightmares about that thing. Even in the daylight, it's still haunting me. That night, I do not see anything, but I did hear strange noises. But when I looked, I didn't see anything at all. Nothing happened for the next week or so. I was so thankful that whatever that thing was, it's now leaving me alone. Unfortunately, the peace did not last, and now it was worse than ever. Whatever it was hitting the sides of the house and trying to get inside. I couldn't bring myself to look, but it sounded as if there were several now. They continued to slam into the side of the house, and I could hear them growling. I couldn't take it any longer, and I just shout, "Leave me the fuck alone!" It gets quiet, but moments later, I hear the front door. It's opening, letting whatever that thing is inside. I run to my bedroom door and slam it shut and lock it. I push against the door with everything in me. I don't remember anything after that. I woke up the next morning, but I wasn't inside my house. I was laying in the middle of the rocks. I don't know how I had gotten there, but I was feeling better than I had since this all began. That night, nothing happened. No noise or anything. I decided to get some sleep, but that was a bad idea. I had nightmares of this thing. It came into my room and dragged me out of bed and into the woods, to the center of the stone formation. And several others joined it and started tearing me apart. It felt so real. I jumped up and checked myself for injuries, but nothing was there. The bed was soaked. I thought I'd pissed the bed, but when I turned on the light, the sheets were stained with red. The room filled with a smell that I can't describe. I had never smelled something so foul before. At this point, I can't tell if it's real or if I'm just going crazy. But this thing, whatever it is, it's affecting me. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel different. I have cravings for human flesh, and even though I'm not sleeping at all, I don't feel tired any longer. I have decided it is best to cut myself off from others because of the urges, but it hasn't helped. They get stronger each day, and I need to get away, but I can't. I want to, but my body will not allow it. I feel this land is now giving me energy, and when I am away, I get weaker, even if it's just a few hours. I have seen several doctors, but they can't explain it. I had been seeing a psychiatrist because the doctors all felt it was mental and not physical. So I am now a recluse. The urges are still there, and now when I do interact with others, I get annoyed quickly. I'm having very violent urges. We are not designed to be shut ins, and it appears that the longer I'm here, the more powerful the urges get. I've found a place to rent, and I'm moving today. It appears that whatever it is knows this, because it's now tormenting me, even when it's daylight and I'm wide awake. I only hope that distance will weaken these feelings, and I hope to never see this place again. What's up, guys? Hope you enjoyed the video. It has gotten more difficult for me to find stories that I can use on the web. So if you have a story and would like to send it to me, the email will be in the description below. I also have a second channel, so if you like comics, video games, that sort of thing, feel free to check it out. I will leave the link in the description also. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share it, guys. And feel free to leave comments if you have something paranormal you would like a video on. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.